Hey, what's up guys? And today I wanted to take a deep dive into the format post-ban list, talk about my thoughts because I never really made a ban list reaction video. I want to tell you guys how I think the format's going to look for at least the next couple of months, the best decks, the best non-engine to play, etc, etc. So starting off, obviously we got a ban list, a lot of cards are hit. I think post-ban list, the best decks are going to be Yummy, Dracotel, and Mitsurugi. These decks seem like the best decks by a decent margin, I think. They're just so much stronger than the other decks, and they didn't really get hit much. Yes, Yummy got Obedience School hit, but I think it's honestly pretty fine. The deck still has enough consistency to make it worthwhile. Dracotel, obviously Dracotel is still chill, didn't get hit at all, so that's pretty good, and Dracotel has a really good Yummy matchup, so it looks like Yummy is going to be the most played deck by a good margin, or at least a decent amount, so having that matchup be like favored for you, or quote-unquote favored, is pretty good. And then you have Mitsurugi, which Pure Mitsurugi was not hit at all, and I think Pure Mitsurugi has a really good matchup into Yummy specifically. I think it's another reason why the deck is going to be solid. Also, in general, it's just a really solid overall deck. Now, moving on to what I think are going to be the rogue decks of the format. K9 Crystron. I think K9 Crystron is still very solid. Yes, inclusion was hit. It does hurt consistency a little bit. Also does make the deck a little bit more like weak in the grind. Maybe not super weak, but you have to definitely be more smart with your resources. Smasher Ban obviously hurt the deck, but I think the deck is still very much playable, especially post Noroi. I think you just play more K9 cards and it's like kind of okay. So I think K9 Crystron is still solid, but it's definitely going to lack a little bit of that power that it had before, especially lacking the opener with like Yoko Sulfador as often. Memento I think is a really solid deck. Still, it's kind of one of those decks. I don't think it's going to see much play, but I think power level wise is still solid. I think Memento is going to benefit from the shift in the format, which in terms of like non-engine and decks, which I'll get to a bit later. But I think a lot of decks like Memento and Lunalight, especially, are going to benefit from the removal of Vanquish Soul from the format. Oh, real quick, I'm recording this like after I edited the video, but I think the Mouse deck also has potential as well. I know I put it in alright in the tier list yesterday, but I think I was underestimating the deck a little bit. I have to test the deck though to see how it fares without Splash Mage. I know you can technically combo without it, but I have to see how it is versus interaction and interruption. So yeah, I just want to add that in. So I don't think Mouse is completely unplayable. And speaking of Vanquish Soul, I think Vanquish Soul is honestly terrible. Like, this deck is unplayable. Like, come on, guys. I think people play lists of like 7th Tachyon. They're trying to play cards, like just more K9 cards. I'm like, bro, this deck just doesn't work. And the problem is the less Vanquish Soul cards you play, the weaker like your deck actually becomes. Right? Like, the Vanquish Soul actually plays a lot of bricky type cards, but the cards gain more value the more like Vanquish Souls you draw together. Like a card like Xiaolong can be really good to open sometimes, but it can be really bad to open. And what determines if it's good or bad to open? How many other Vanquish Soul cards you open with it, right? But you kind of need to play these cards for the deck to have value. And so like you just make the deck super like bricky. And if you don't play those cards like Xiaolong, what's the point of playing the Vanquish Soul cards? You know, your deck is just worse than the other decks. I think people are coping or trying to make the deck playable. And look, can you take it to locals? Maybe, sure, but like the deck already had consistency problems, right? And it lost 4 starters, which is absolutely crazy. Like 4 starters is wild. Also, the deck's grind game is much worse now. Like, like with weird scenarios too. Like someone mentioned, like, yeah, Holy Sue Raisin. If you open that, you actually just can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, which is funny. Like going second, I mean, Holy Sue is in a hand trap. But yeah, I think Vanquish Soul is really poor. I don't think you should pick it up. Do not play this deck, please. This deck is terrible. Talking about some of the other rogue decks, Lunalight. I think Lunalight is positioned pretty well into the format. I think Vanquish Soul was its hardest matchup out of the playable decks. So, because it was harder to go second against Vanquish Soul than it was against Yummy and Dracotel, in my opinion. Partially because of the burn damage, partially because of Paradise Smasher. I mean, I guess you could argue K9 Crystron, but like out of the decks, that's all like the most worth play. So I think Lunalight is pretty positioned well in the next format, but it's also a weakness of Lunalight because if the deck is positioned well, I think more people are going to play the deck, or more people are going to expect it. And if more people are expecting it, more people are going to prep hard for it. And Lunalight is the kind of deck where like, you really benefit from people not expecting it. Because if people are expecting Lunalight, the deck does get a bit weaker, you know? Playing Liger outs and stuff like that. Unlike Malice and Ryziel, there aren't a ton of insane Liger outs, so I think you can actually like, it's still okay, but definitely Moonlight's strength will depend on what people are doing the prep for it. In terms of Liger outs, Yummy doesn't really have a clean one, to be honest, so that's chill. For Lunalight, Dragotail doesn't really have a clean one either. It's either Dragoon or Grand Giganol. You can do Grand Giganol, send, I've seen a couple things. I've seen mainly from the OCG, you go like Cartesia into Grand Giganol, this fusion, sorry, Grand Giganol. So this guy can send like a, the Perfume Dancer from the deck to the graveyard, for the extra deck to the graveyard. And then if they put Lunalight, a Liger Dancer in attack position, you can like attack over it with Perfume, using Perfume Dancer's graveyard effect. It should be in defense position though, by the way. Alternatively, you can also send like a Kaiju, like a light Kaiju, or something like that, and add it back with the Alzarion. So that's like another like pseudo out you can do, especially if you're like expecting the deck, but it doesn't require like much commitment. So if you play against somebody doing something like that, it's gonna be rough. Maybe not rough, but it's like it shouldn't. I'm not gonna. My bad. It's not gonna be rough, but the deck's gonna be a slightly worse pick than it is before. Like imagine you get like hand trap, you end up like one Liger, and then somebody randomly just drew like the one Kaiju they were playing. It's like, come on. I'm not saying that's the reason that the deck's gonna be like meh, but like it's something to take into account. And it's like one of like 20 different factors, right? Like maybe if Mitsurugi probably isn't going to play, like if Moonlight is in the deck, Mitsurugi probably does not play the Wosu, right? But with Lunalight seeing play, for sure they're going to play Wosu. So it's just stuff like that that I think makes Lunalight not as good of a pick as it maybe can be, but it'll depend on hype. So we'll have to see about that. Sky Striker, I think Sky Striker is a deck that is pretty decent, especially post Dude getting the new quick play spell. I tested Sky Striker a bit ago. My main issue with it was the Vanquishful matchup. The Vanquishful matchup was just too rough. Not completely unwinnable, but definitely not a favored matchup. So I think the removal of Vanquishful is going to help that deck a lot. So I think that's really chill. Although Sky Striker is one of those decks that sometimes it feels like you need everything to go perfectly to win. It's not so like decks like those kind of, they seem like they have potential, but they end up not being great. So I'm not entirely sure about that. To talk about some of the non-engine that is going to be good. So obviously like Vanquishful being hit and K9 cards seeing less play. A lot of people were saying Breaker is going to be better, and I do agree. It's like normally at the start of the format, people are like Breakers are good, and then people switch to hand traps. I generally think the Breaker is going to be good though. Starting off with the non-engine, so like Azuna, I think as a hand trap gets worse, obviously. Obviously the main deck you want to Azuna for was the K9 decks, so it being bad against that is pretty unfortunate. Those decks being less play rather. Yummy, against Yummy, like I don't want Azuna, obviously the card's unplayable, and if Yummy is the most expected deck by a decent margin, Azuna's not gonna be in my deck list. Or if I'm playing a Mitsurugi deck list, or if you're playing a K9 deck list, I think maybe you play like 2 Azuna in the main deck, side 1, maybe. Dragotail, Azuna's not bad, but I think it's definitely dealable, and if you're playing a non-engine, there are much better cards against Dragotail, I feel like. Or decently better, at least. Mitsurugi, I don't feel like there's a good target against Mitsurugi. I think the best target against Mitsurugi for rank 5 to make is the Hound. And then like other decks is like whatever, so I don't expect Azuna to see much play. Valor Ogre do get a bit worse as well. Obviously the main matchup you want to for with the K9 decks, specifically Vanquishful, so the fact that Vanquishful is not really playable anymore means these cards don't really see play, which is pretty cool. I think Bell is a card that gets slightly better. Like when you look at Bell, it's like it's playable against Yummy, Dragotail, Mitsurugi. Like that's kind of what you want, right? My only worry is that might not be high impact enough against the Mitsurugi deck, because like hitting pre-prep is pretty good, but I don't think there's many great targets. People say that Bell is a board breaker, but my issue with that is that if they go like Prayer Tribute Murakumo, right? You can't really Bell that, because if you Bell that, they just trigger Murakumo, and if you hold the Bell, they chain block the Murakumo. So like sometimes Bell can be nice as a board breaker against the deck, but not every time. It's not consistent, so I'm a bit iffy on the Bell. But it's like definitely an option. I have been some of my main decks right now. And also I think like Fua, is really good. I think in terms of most armies, Fua is like crazy. Like it at least gets value against like every single deck, which is what you want. Perulia, I think, and like there's no punish because like Smasher is gone. I think Perulia gets worse in the format. Yes, it's arguably better against Yummy because there's less obedience cool now. However, I don't think it's much better, and against all the other decks, it's really bad. Like Perulia against Dragotail, come on, dude. Perulia against like Mitsurugi, like come on, dude. Against the Kanai deck is pretty solid. Memento, like come on, bro. Like Lunalight, like Perulia is terrible against Lunalight as well. You know, Sky Striker, like these decks are just not good against these decks. So I don't think Perulia is that great right now. Unfortunately, in the Meowth, I don't think Meowth is good either. Joel, I think Joel has potential to see like play. I kind of like last format, I guess. So obviously it's not good against Yummy, and I don't think people will main Joel, but I think it might be a decent side deck card. If you side deck against, if you play against a deck like Mitsurugi, or if you play against a deck like Lunalite or Sky Striker, some rogue decks like that. So I think just the combo deck. So I think Joel does have potential in the format. So I think that's pretty chill. In terms of board breakers, I think Droplet and Thrust are the best board breakers for sure. Thrust mainly in the Yummy deck, but has synergy with Jigotail too. So Thrust and Yummy, obviously you can grab Obedient School, so it's at 1. So you have like 4 copies of it still, going second, which is pretty cool. Thrust and regular Jigotail, I don't think is that great. But in the branded version specifically, is pretty solid. And speaking of it's insane. And speaking of branded version, obviously branded fusion went to 2. So I think honestly branded is going to see a lot more play. I've seen a lot of people testing with it, and it's not even that I think branded is like a tier 1 deck, but I think branded is just like people love the deck. A lot of people like branded. It's very like, it has a very large fan base. And the reason I don't have it in this list of decks is not that I don't think it's great, it's that I think the most played branded variant is probably going to be Jigotail branded, so it's like kind of up here still. Jigotail branded, I mean, I haven't really messed around with it, so I can't talk about it too much. I'm not extremely familiar with it, like the strengths and weaknesses of the deck, but I do expect I would expect people to play that deck. And like that's a kind of a matchup where you might want a card like Valor. So I played a matchup against it earlier, and I was like, yo, these board breakers, oh my god, I don't know. I don't think you could win against the deck with board breakers, but potentially. Oh, in terms of other hand traps too, I think like Imperm is still like decent. It's not really great against Yummy. I mean, Parasol is fluid, but outside of that, it's not good against Yummy. But Imperm, I think, is good against all of these decks, kind of. Not all of the decks, I'm not. It's like if you play against like a branded version or like Jigotail, Imperm is not bad, or like a K9 deck, Imperm is not bad. But I don't know how I feel about Imperm in the main deck, because it's not good against Yummy, especially against a good if a player like plays around Imperm on Cupsy Yummy way. Also, it's not good against Habakiri. So like, or the Mitsurugi deck. So I don't know about Imperm. Also, the last hand trap I'll talk about is Dominus Purge. I think Dominus Purge is really good. I think you still play it in Yummy for sure. Like Purge, it's like okay-ish in the mirror because you can purge the Cupsy. It's really good against Mitsurugi, obviously. Not insane because like they go like Habakiri, should be summon Saji effect. You can't like purge that, and that could be like Giga fucked. But I think it's still solid. And then Purge against like Jigotail is like really good. Obviously being on Stop Cat 2 or whatever. Because K9 is good. Like it's good against all these decks. So I think Purge is really solid. Talk a little bit about Yummy, and I know my thoughts are a bit out of order, so sorry about that. Talk a little bit about Yummy. I think Yummy as a deck is, I think it's the best deck, definitely. At least like, it looks like the best deck, right? But Yummy is also a deck that has a lot of people, like, they'll have a lot of eyes on it, so a lot of people will be trying to counter it. But surprisingly, like at the start of the format, I was like, the deck is super easily counterable by playing certain cards, but I think surprisingly, you can actually deal with a lot of those cards super easily. I think the only card that really feels like super unfair to play against is like Super Poly, for like when they go like Super Poly summon Mudragon. But even then, depending on like your non-engine, you might be able to deal with that. So I think Yummy's probably gonna be the best deck. After that, it'll be formed. The format will be formed around Yummy. So we'll see what's up there. Something else I want to talk about is Ryzeal. So obviously Ryzeal got hit. Ryzeal is now at 1, I believe, which is definitely a hit. And obviously Feral is banned, so I don't think Ryzeal will see any play, but there's a potential. Wait, it kind of might. Like I think Ryzeal going second, Ryzeal going second is still like an insane card into the format. Sending Valon and searching a Sword Ryzeal is crazy. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone try to play Ryzeal cards in the deck, but I don't think the payoff was good enough, especially in a deck like Mitsurugi. But it's something to keep in mind. Something else I want to talk about is the Fiend's engine. Obviously Moon was banned, but we have Lacrima back. Moon ban is a bit unfortunate. Decks still have ways to go into it though. Like for example, if you're playing Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, you can make Exciton Knight to go into your Requiem, or you can like draw Engraver. That's pretty cool. In terms of how I think about the Fiendsmith cards this format, I think against Yummy, the Fiendsmith cards are really bad. So obviously like stopping Obedient School, stopping Engage Drones is good, but Wave King loses to like one name. And I don't think Desirae's high impact enough either. Because like when I say Wave King loses one name, by the way, because like you can go the normal summon a name, Link, you can't Wave King that obviously. Link 1, Snatchy, Place Field Fill, Minion Revive, Waves King can only negate spell and trap card activations, not the effects. So you actually can't stop that. And they can go like Cups the Yummy Way, search 2, discard 1, summon 1 from hand, you can't stop that. And go like Book of Moon, keep playing there. Like Cookie Book of Moon, rather. So I think Fiends of Engine, kind of like last format, it's not really good against Yummy. Arguably got worse against Yummy because Obedience School is getting hit. And arguably also worse because if more people are playing board breakers and not hand traps, like they're gonna have more outs to it. Against Mitsurugi, I think Fiends Whip is pretty good though. Obviously, like Waves King is good in this matchup. Waves King is also good in this matchup. Also, I think the grind when you're playing versus Mitsurugi like helps as well. But yeah, Waves King's good in here, like good in here. But because it's not good versus Yummy, I'm not sure then just gonna see much play. As for what Lacrima enables, honestly, I'm not sure. In the vacuum, Lacrima is a really good card, so you feel like it should enable some stuff. But I in my head, I try to think about the lines, and I'm like, what does Lacrima enable you to do that you couldn't do before? I can't even think of anything. So that'll be for some people to like lab out and test, but we'll have to see what's up there. And yeah, that's pretty much the main things I'm going to talk about right now. My thoughts on the format, where I think it's going to go off. Basically, the decks I think you're going to see play, the non-engine, etc., etc., etc. Dude's coming out. I don't think Dude's going to change the format really. Outside of what I've talked about right now. I'm kind of talking about this with the Dude in mind, but also not really, because which is a Dude? It's like Noroi, which is like less impactful now that like the ban list came out. So it's really just like Marshmallow. There's like the RB support, but those cards seem really back it up, bro. Like, those cards seem pretty lackluster. I'm not gonna lie, so I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Later today, I might upload like a video, like a deck profile. For the next couple days, I'll probably start uploading like 2 videos a day, at least for 3 or 4 days, at least for 3. Cause I don't want to like. I want to upload content for all the decks, but I also don't want to like wait too long. So I'll probably do something like that. But yeah, hope you have a wonderful day and take care.